Now we break down a story shaping our world, a rise in damage and danger where Canadians shop.
It's the level of violence.
Retail is reeling. Stores vandalized.
This window here has been smashed, this one's been smashed, that one's been smashed.
Workers attacked.
Punch them, threaten them with a knife, hit them with an object, stab them with a needle.
And easy solutions may be out of reach. In a few minutes, we'll talk causes and solutions, but first, some BC retailers took us inside their stores to show us the violence that has them sounding the alarm. A brazen robbery caught on a security camera inside a London drugstore. A woman threatening staff, demanding a new mobile phone. Take a closer look. She's brandishing a cleaver that she took from the kitchen aisle. At another location in Vancouver, a disagreement turns dangerous. Cameras show an attacker chasing a man with a large knife. These are some of the videos London Drugs is sharing with CBC. They show distressing and even violent moments inside its stores across Western Canada.
What we see that really concerns us is the level of violence in particular. This is a people issue.
Clint Malman is the company's chief operating officer.
The violence against service workers in Canada has reached a crisis point, and we need politicians to recognize that they're behind the issue on this.
Give me some examples of violence that your employees have dealt with.
Sure. So an example is an employee just simply offering service to someone, and the person will again turn around, physically punch them, threaten them with a knife, hit them with an object, stab them with a needle. I never thought in all my years that I would have to be looking at purchasing stab vests, but that's exactly what we've had to do. That's insane in this day and age that in Canada that we're having to protect our employees like that.
The attacks can happen without warning. An angry customer trying to return a product throws hot coffee at a clerk. A man stealing vitamins from a store in the heart of downtown Vancouver uses bear spray on an employee as he flees. So London Drugs is a retail powerhouse in British Columbia. I don't ever remember you or anybody from the company taking a public stance on an issue. Like, why this one, why now?
Ian, you're exactly right, but it underscores how concerned we are about the violence against our employees and against our customers, and the fact that in the communities we serve, how many times we hear from community groups, citizens groups, that this issue isn't being addressed.
To get a sense of how great the concern is, just take a look at some of the other major retailers that have joined London Drugs in a coalition called SOS, Save Our Streets, here in Vancouver and in communities across BC. But here's the problem. Even if the retailers are right that an increase in violence in stores has led to greater risk for customers and staff, what's the solution?
We have to look at the root cause of these problems, Ian, and they've always been the same. It's not rocket science. We know what the issues are.
Rob Danu spent years prosecuting people accused of crimes in Vancouver's downtown east side. He's now a defense lawyer in Abbotsford, an hour east of Vancouver.
Well, we're looking for short-term solutions to long-term problems is the issue. So we really need to back up and once again address those basic issues. That being said, in terms of immediate responses, businesses need to be vocal. So they're doing that. They're telling their politicians that something's wrong, but not just to be vocal, but also to be vocal about what needs to be done. Because when they're not telling our politicians that, look, homelessness is a problem around my business, addiction is a problem around my business, then you have politicians going on and trying to change the laws that actually don't pertain to the actual problem is.
I don't want to put everything on your shoulders, but you have a lot of experience, both as a former prosecutor and now as a defense lawyer. Is there a short-term or at least a medium-term solution to make things safer?
There's no short-term solution to these problems, Ian. We have to dedicate significant resources and expertise to mental health, to addiction, to homelessness and poverty. So although our businesses are under stress right now, we have to take a long-term approach to this.
To solve this problem, we first need to be a city that stops enabling this culture of drug addiction.
But Sunan Spriggs is tired of waiting for a long-term approach to make things better.
Help us find these women who smashed our store window in Vancouver.
She's pushing for action on social media, trying to identify people who have vandalized her business. She's the owner of City Luxe Boutique in Vancouver's downtown core. So just show me the damage you've had here.
Well, there's been multiple windows broken, so this window out here has been smashed, this one's been smashed, that one's been smashed.
Wow.
I can't remember if it was this one or this one, but one of those two is also smashed, and it's happened multiple times, so some of them have been replaced multiple times. You just kind of lost track.
How much does it cost to fix one of these?
Most, like, you can go from $4,000 to like $2,500, so it really varies depending on the style.
$4,000?
Yeah, because they're actually very durable windows.
Oh my gosh.
Beyond the broken windows, there have been some surreal moments at City Luxe Boutique. A smash and grab right outside their door in the middle of the day.
Yeah, he just took it.
And this video was widely shared. That chair came from inside the store. A thief picked it up, carried it out before police picked them up a few blocks away. Sprigg says the big problem is addiction, and she believes not enough is being done to get people off drugs. In the meantime, her frustration grows. What does it feel like to walk in here in the morning and see that window smashed?
Honestly, it feels like you got punched in the face or punched in the stomach. Even though it's not a personal attack, it feels like a personal attack because this is your business, this is your baby. You're the one at the end of the day who's having to come out of their pocket to repair it. It feels like the same if somebody came to your house and you came home and it was vandalized. Yeah. It's personal, it feels personal.
Yeah. It's been almost 2 months since the big retailers went public with their concerns. London Drugs says at its locations in Western Canada, this year alone, loss prevention officers have made 1,500 arrests. So you've been with this company for almost 40 years?
Yes.
Have you ever seen anything like what we're seeing now?
No, it's never been like this before. And it's the level of violence and what we hear people say that there's absolutely no consequences for the level of violence or theft. And that's why they continue to commit these crimes. And that's scary because that means that the chances are very high they're going to continue to commit those crimes.
The proposals currently on the table to address mental health, addictions, and public safety issues in Nanaimo do not even scratch the surface, and we demand action.
Community groups and politicians in BC have railed against what they call catch and release, arresting a small number of repeat offenders only to see them quickly end up back on the street. But Rob Danu, the former prosecutor, says longer jail terms are not the answer. Some people are pointing out now that when what appears to be a crime is committed, whether it's a window being broken or a store employee being assaulted, that the system should be tougher, that those people should go to jail, they should be punished and not just let back out on the street.
Well, look, I started my career out as a Crown prosecutor, and I had that exact same view. It's a very black and white view of how the world and the law works. When I would ask for offenders to be sent to jail, they'd come back even worse. And then I asked for a longer sentence, and they'd come back even worse than that. And I learned, and the reason I moved over to a defense practice was that they needed treatment, they needed help.
Again, the key question, if the level of violence is unprecedented and unacceptable, is anything going to change? We wanted to ask BC's Minister of Public Safety, Mike Farnworth, his reaction to the coalition's concerns, but his office said he wouldn't do an interview. It did send us a statement that cited the province's Safer Communities Action Plan, adding it's starting to show progress on these complex public issues, though there's no detail on what's being done to try to reduce mayhem in stores. Coming up, we're going to drill down on some possible solutions to this problem. We'll bring in two experts, a criminologist and a police chief. That's next on The Breakdown. Retail vandalism and violence caught on camera across the country. Attacks on frontline workers on the rise. According to the Retail Council of Canada, after the start of the pandemic, increasing up to 200%. But it's hard to fight it without knowing what's fueling it. Well, let's bring in a couple of people who pay a lot of attention to this topic of crime. Michael Kempa is an associate professor of criminology at the University of Ottawa. And Danny Smythe is the chief of the Winnipeg Police Service and the president of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. Professor Kempa, our story tonight focused primarily on British Columbia, but what do we know about crime in retail outlets across Canada?
Well, one thing we know is that overall shoplifting rates don't change very much
from year to year or even decade to decade. Now, obviously, not all of these incidents are reported, but we also know from industry statistics that the total amount, the dollar value of loss has been going up, and the total amount of violence in these types of robberies has been increasing. So that tells us that the nature of shoplifting, the nature of theft in the retail workplace is changing. There's two major new forms. One is being driven, such as in the segment we saw from you, along the lines of drug addiction and mental health issues and poverty driving people to deal and sometimes engage in random violence. And the other is far more organized crime getting involved in systematic robberies of retail outlets to sell these things on the massively expanded markets of the internet that blew up over the course of the pandemic.
And Chief Smythe, let's get the police perspective. What would you say about crime in retail outlets?
Well, I sort of can concur with what Professor said there. You know, that's exactly what we're seeing. Of course, your segment kind of focused in on people with addiction and people in crisis, but we are seeing an awful lot of what I would call more sophisticated and organized shoplifting as well. You know, we had an example just here locally last week where we caught a guy, 17 different thefts that were captured, and he'd been released each time and was back in the retail store doing the same thing. And to illustrate, he was reselling the stuff online. So we're seeing elements of both.
Chief, in 2020, as I understand it, your province, Manitoba, created a task force to deal with retail crimes. Has it had an impact?
I think it has in some sectors. So one of the issues we were dealing with back then was prolific stealing that was going on in our liquor stores. And, we had worked with the retailer there. They actually changed the way they sell their retail model, where people are actually providing their ID coming into the store. It all almost eliminated theft completely. But I also recognize that not every retailer can take an approach like that. So trying to deal or partner with the Retail Council of Canada to try some different initiatives. And, I see agencies across the country trying to do some real targeted enforcement along with some public awareness.
Okay, I'll come back to that. We have, a big question here for both of you and not a lot of time, but Professor Kempa, I think one of the frustrating things for retailers, certainly in my experience, is hearing there is no short-term solution. There is no medium-term solution. They're saying, look, we're concerned about the violence in our stores. So from a criminologist's perspective, give me an example or two of what should change that could reduce this problem.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is, of course, businesses have a responsibility to ensure the safety of their workers. The easiest thing for them to do, therefore, and the cheapest thing is to say, if you see theft, do nothing, because that takes you out of the possible way of harm. But then we're also creating an environment where there seems to be no repercussions and very little chance of being caught or punished or even really followed up with any type of authority. I think what we're talking about mostly is using technology to identify those prolific offenders and track what's being stolen to figure out who the broader networks are. Sometimes we're talking about local gangs. Sometimes we're talking about very sophisticated international syndicates and how they're moving these items for sale onto the internet. I think that's really where you need to go, because it's not just about catching one or two offenders red-handed or putting a couple of people in jail. It's really about trying to dry up those markets for illegal goods off of the internet.
Chief Smythe, with London Drugs, they took us into a room in one of their stores, and they have incredibly sophisticated video equipment there. They do track people who are stealing, taking a page out of Professor Kempa's book. They do go to the police, and they feel good about their relationship with the police, but they are frustrated, I think, by the number of offenders who end up very quickly back on the street. As the chief of the Winnipeg Police Force Service, what's your perspective on that?
Well, we're certainly partnering with many of the retailers here locally. There is an element of what Professor Kempa is talking about there, but I think we need to actually come to the aid of the retailers as well. They're often the economic engine in many of our cities. They're looking for some assistance. I think our prosecutors do a pretty good job at diverting offenders when it's appropriate to do so. But in some instances, people really do need to be taken out of circulation so that they can't continue to harm a community, particularly when there's violence involved in some of these thefts.
Well, we know there's a problem, and we know we need solutions, and maybe this conversation is helping us towards that. Thanks to both of you. Michael Kempa, Associate Professor of Criminology at the University of Ottawa, and Danny Smythe is the Chief of the Winnipeg Police Service and the President of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will continue to follow the increase in retail violence. We'd like to hear your stories. You can send them to The National at cbc.ca. And this weekend on The National, we take on another shift in Canadian commerce, the rising trend of tipping. And no huge surprise here, mere mention of it brings up some strong feelings.
How do you feel about tipping culture?
I'm iffy about it, I'm not gonna lie. I'm broke.
Everything is tipping now. It's just too excessive. You can't afford to eat out so much anymore.
What do you think about tipping?
Oh God, the customer should not bear the burden of it.
I feel like it's the right thing to do.
But where do you draw the line?
Oh, like if I go to a coffee spot and they in the little button say tip, nah, like okay, I probably won't tip you, I'm not gonna lie.
If you give me good service, 100%, I'm gonna tip.
What do we think of tipping?
Well, I am a server. I think that tipping shouldn't be a thing, but servers need to get paid a livable wage.
What do you think the logical fix for it is though?
Increase the prices of their menu and pay their servers a livable wage.
I think raising the wage definitely is needed.
The fix, I've never even thought of that. I mean, a cap?
Tipflation, tip creep, we'll get into all of that on Sunday. Coming up, a mini Christmas village with big wow factor.
My ultimate dream to build one, and out of love and passion for Christmas.
After more than a decade of collecting, his Christmas dream is on display in our moment. Well, this is a miniature Christmas village. You might be familiar with them. Sometimes they feature a few storefronts with lights and figurines, but this is an elaborate labor of love. Edmonton's Alberto Esguerra has been collecting the pieces for the past 13 years. He spent 5 months building it with his family, and his holiday passion is our moment.
It's my dream. It's my ultimate dream. Since I was a kid, whenever we put up a Christmas tree, I try to make some small Christmas houses underneath our Christmas tree. And then when I came here in Canada, 13 years ago, I started collecting. I have more than 100 buildings. And then people, I don't know, they're like mushrooms. They propagate quickly. I think there are maybe around 600 of them. This is the first time I set them all together. It takes a lot of passion, patience, and patience. I would say 5 months, an hour or two a day, and some full day on my days off. Back home, we really love Christmas in the Philippines. Anything is family togetherness, and the memory that it brings is the real meaning of Christmas.
I'm going to admit it, I love Christmas villages. I have a far more modest one in my house. He has a 2-bedroom apartment. His wife apparently is already saying to him, is it possible that maybe we could dismantle all of that by February? He says there's a possibility, from what I understand, that it could stay up all year, but it is beautiful. That is The National for December 15th. I hope you join me Sunday for Cross Country Checkup on CBC Radio and CBC News Network. Our question, have tipping expectations in Canada gone too far? And later, Sunday night, I'll be back here for The National. Have a great Saturday.